Hey guys, it's James Upjohn here. I just want to say an absolutely massive thank you to everybody that supported me in my campaign up to now. We've had people out delivering leaflets, we've had people having window posters, we've had people telling friends and family and sharing my posts on Facebook. I really appreciate all of you, and I'm absolutely blown away and overwhelmed by the level of support that this campaign has had and the amount of love and appreciation that you've shown to me over the last couple of years, from setting up Skem First, all about Ashurst, and doing all of the community events. I just want to clear up a couple of misconceptions. I have been out door knocking about 25% of all doors in Ashurst now, and have spoken to hundreds and hundreds of residents. A couple of things come up over and over again. One of the main things being, are you anti-political party? Are you anti-Labour? Why are you standing as an independent? A couple of people were worried maybe it was because I was a Tory. So I just want to come out and say the reason that I'm independent is not because I'm anti-political party. However, I am anti-complacency. In Skelmersdale, we've had 45 years of exactly the same. Year after year after year, people go into the election booth, finding the Labour councillor, ticking the box, and basically electing Labour in all 16 seats in Skelmersdale ever since things changed over from the corporation to the district council and then the borough council. Now, the reason that that's an issue is not because they're Labour specifically. The reason it's an issue is because if we constantly vote for the same over and over again and do it blindly, the problem that we create is complacency. We get to a stage where people start saying things like, oh, you could pin a red rosette on a donkey and it'd still get elected in Skem. Or, worst case scenario still, we end up with people being elected to represent us in Skelmersdale and they don't even live here. A perfect example of that is 5 years ago, Gail Hodson was living in Tolton, which is part of West Lancashire, but because Tolton was a safe Tory seat and she would have no chance of being elected there, she was put up in Ashurst instead. Ashurst was considered a safe Labour seat. She was an activist, she was politically motivated, so she was put up in Ashurst and she won. She got over 1,000 votes. I asked the question, if people knew that she lived in Tolton and she was being elected to represent Ashurst, would she have still got 1,000 votes? Here's the problem. When you are standing as a candidate, you don't have to specify where you live. You can leave that blank. So Ashurst went out for about 30%, went out and went to the polling station, looked down the list and they saw Gail Hodson, Labour, and so they just checked the box. We've ended up with a councillor that doesn't come to Ashurst often, that doesn't live here, that I believe that she has done some good. I don't want to take that away from her, but I do also know that 2 years ago she decided to step down. And because the election was supposed to be last year, she basically conceded her seat. Somebody else was selected to represent it, and then the election was cancelled. So she's ended up being our councillor for another year still and doesn't even live here. So that for me is a fundamental problem. I don't want councillors being elected because it's a safe Labour seat. I don't want councillors being elected because, oh, well, you're definitely going to get in if you stand there. I want councillors to be elected because they live here, because they love here, and because they know the community, they know the businesses, they know the schools, and most importantly, they know the residents. If they get to know the residents by knocking on the doors, by engaging with them on social media, via phone call or email, then they can properly represent you. Let's not forget that a councillor's primary role is to represent the residents of the ward that they're elected in. That's their primary role. If they've never got to know you previously and they've been elected for a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, and they don't know you, how can they be fulfilling their primary role? And it's not me that set the primary role. I haven't said this is what councillors should be doing. The local government association has said a councillor's primary role is to represent the electorate of where they're elected. So that's what I want to do. We've got some in Skem that do an absolutely fantastic job. I'm not going to say that all councillors are rubbish, but I am going to say that we should be looking at the candidate. We shouldn't be looking at the party. It doesn't matter if you're Labour, if you're Green, if you're Tory, if you're Liberal Democrat, if you pink with yellow spots. If you live in the area, if you love the area, if you are committed to getting to know the schools, the businesses, the residents, then you can properly represent them on the council. It doesn't matter what your national politics beliefs are. What matters is, do you care enough about the ward that you're elected in that you're going to fight for it tooth and nail to make sure that the residents are properly represented? As I've been out knocking on doors and as I've seen people posting in the Facebook groups, I can see the same issues come up over and over and over again. I have had residents say to me, that tree behind my house is far too tall and it needs some maintenance. Nobody's asking for every tree in Skelmersdale to be chopped down, but loads and loads of people are saying, none of these have been maintained in years, what can we do to get them fixed? Residents are saying, I'm sick to death of nuisance vehicles flying around the back of my house. I've had one resident say she was pulling off her driveway and nearly got crashed into by a quad. So, because I'm learning these things about where the issues actually are, by being out there and speaking to residents, I can go back to the council if I'm elected and I can say, look, I know the specific issues for the specific streets. What can we do to help residents in those particular areas? That's what all our councillors should be doing. And so I ask everybody, when you're considering voting, don't worry about which party it is. It shouldn't be important at a local level. If it was a national election, of course, I'd be saying to you, vote which way you've always done, or look at the party policies. If you normally vote Labour and it's a national election, go ahead, do that, because it's a national thing and they can change policy. However, when it comes to local issues, as I've said, we should be looking at who's the most important candidate, who's the best one, who's the one that's out there really getting to know the community, bringing people together and understanding what's happening. Now, some councillors might be upset with me saying this, but the only reason a councillor should be upset with me saying it is because they're worried that they haven't done enough. I'm not accusing anybody of whether they've done enough or not done enough. That's on them, and that's on you as the electorate to decide for yourself. Do I know who my councillor is? Have they ever engaged with me? Have they ever called me, emailed me, spoke to me on social media, let me know who they are? Have they ever arranged events in the local area? Have they ever reached out to me in any way? If the answer is no, then, as I've already said, they're not fulfilling their primary role. That's on them. So, have a look at their mandates, have a look at what they've already achieved, have a look at what they say they're going to achieve, and then go off of that. Now, this is a pitch fest for me at this point. I'm going to say I hope I've done enough to prove to you that I love Ashurst and the wider Skelmersdale community. I've created All About Ashurst, which has got 1,000+ members. I created Skem First, which has got 6,500 members. I did Christmas cards because we had such a rubbish year that I wanted to bring everyone together. I've reported street signs and road signs for being dirty. They weren't clean, so I went out and cleaned them myself. I've organised litter picks. I've done litter picking assemblies with St James's in Ashurst and St Richard's in Old Skem. As soon as lockdown's over, I'll be going into the Maharishi, I'll be going into Brookfield, and if any other school wants me to go in and talk to the kids about litter picking and our environment, I'm more than happy to go in and do that, because I think a generational change is needed in Skelmersdale. I want our kids to grow up really understanding that it's not cool to litter, it's not cool to fly tip. I also want to be involved in the council so that I can have a look at some of our policies around littering and fly tipping. Are we doing enough? Could we have some mobile CCTV to deter people from doing it? Could we make changes to the bulky waste collection service so that it's more accessible to the people that need it most? Is the council doing enough in those areas? There's so much that I want to ask questions about. I can't promise to change the world. I'm going to be one elected councillor as an independent. But what I can promise all of you is I live here, I love it, and I really want to jump up and down, make some noise, show everybody that Skem isn't the safe seat that it's always been considered. And also, I'd like to take your views, your opinions, what you're telling me. I want to take them to the council and say, look, this is what the public thinks. Let's fix those things first. Let's start thinking about Let's start thinking about pie in the sky projects and crazy things for the town. Let's first of all ask the residents, what do you actually want? What are your concerns? Let's fix those. Let's raise the morale of everybody. And then maybe, just maybe, when we start talking about the bigger projects, people believe it because they can see the real change. So that's what I'm asking all of you to consider. Please look at your candidate. Have they done enough? If they have, vote for them. If they haven't done enough, then maybe it's time for change. I really, really hope that you can see that I've got bundles of passion. I am asking the right questions and I want to get elected so that I can hopefully help shape council policy moving forwards. Guys, thank you so much for watching this. I really, really appreciate it. If you're not in Skelmersdale or all about Ashurst, please get involved. We do Easter events, we do Christmas events, we do Halloween events, we did a VE Day celebration event. Most of this right now is funded by me, it's funded by local businesses that I've built great relationships with. I saw early on that through things like Skem First, if I've got a group with so many residents in it, I can help local businesses promote their business within the group. And then when I need help with something like a treasure hunt, I can go back to those same businesses and I can ask them, hey, can you donate a prize? Can you give us some eggs? Can you help us in some way? And the businesses are more than happy to do it, because what are we doing? We're working together and making a difference. That's one of my campaign slogans, actually. It's making a difference, working together. And that's exactly what we're doing. St James's, they needed some nursery equipment for the school. So I reached out to all the local businesses that make money out of Skem First by promoting their own businesses in there. And I asked them to donate prizes. We ended up with a 2-hour garden tidy up. We ended up with a free dog room. We ended up with some lip fillers. We ended up with music lessons at the e-rooms. Prizes from Subway, prizes from the Courtyard Cafe. If I forgot anyone, I'm sorry, but basically we ended up with so many prizes from local businesses because they were thrilled to be able to get involved. Carpet cleans, stuff from Piggy's Pantry. The list goes on and on of the absolute generosity that's been shown. And I was able to take those prizes to St James's and I was able to say, hey, you need some nursery equipment, here's some prizes, do a raffle. They did a raffle and it made £400 and they was able to use that to get the nursery equipment they needed. This is exactly what it's about. The school working with local businesses and working with local residents inside Skem First. So this is my vision, bring everybody together, and together with the power of all of us working together, we really can bring about significant change. Guys, thank you so much for watching this. I really appreciate it. And if you live in Ashurst, I'd really appreciate it if you'd consider voting James Upjohn in the election. Once again, a massive thank you to all of you. I know that I set a lot of this stuff up, but there's no way I would have been able to do it without your support. If we didn't have 6,000 members in the Facebook group, then Skem First would be nothing. So thank you to all of you. All of the members of All About Ashurst, all of the members of Skem First, all of the people that are putting posters up in windows, that are talking to their neighbours, that are sharing, that are liking, that are commenting, that are helping me deliver leaflets, the admin team that are really helping make this work, the generosity of all of the businesses, the schools loving it and getting involved as well. Guys, thank you. Every single one of you. This isn't about James Upjohn. This isn't the James Upjohn show. It's not the James Upjohn and Dave Beeston fan club. What this is a community of 6,500 people coming together and saying, now let's change things and let's make things better. Guys, thank you so much for helping me do that. I really, really appreciate all of you. Cheers.